Okay, hello, we're back. We are talking tonight. We have Derek Lacey here again, talking about the art of falling asleep, foundational or underpinning principles. And today we are talking about principle number 3, which is everything you need is already inside of you. And I know that that phrase is used quite a lot at the moment in different circles for different reasons and different things. Um, but here, obviously, we are talking about it as it pertains to sleep. So it has a different kind of flavor in a way to some of the stuff you might have heard before. So um, yeah, and it's huge. It's a huge one, isn't it, Derek?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, you and I were joking about the meme where you open the fridge and it says everything you need's already inside of you, but it's true because there's truth in the expression that everything you need is already inside of you. And I've always found that there's a frustration in that it still lacks the substance and there's no messaging. The messaging is not complete. Like I
No, and
get that
it can
everything's already
almost
there.
yeah, and it can almost be annoying for people because they're like, well, I'm not feeling that or seeing that or
Mhm.
experiencing that. So now I just feel even worse because you're telling me that it is, and I don't even know that it is. So yeah, there's definitely something incomplete, especially the way it's being sort of used in circles at the moment, which is why I wanted to say that because
Right.
it's it's true for the art of falling asleep, but it's one of these phrases that's maybe some people are rolling their eyes at a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's begin with why it's true at a physiological level, because this is actually the place where it's easy to take the wrong first step and approach sleep with this idea that, okay, it's time to go to sleep. Now let me start making this sleep. What do I
Yes,
have to do
making
to go
what I
to
have to
sleep?
do to make the sleep happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so if you're taking a supplement, let's just say
Mhm.
that's the classic example, because there's a certain time that you take certain things so that they have a chance to develop and
Mm,
activate, right? So there wouldn't be a supplement industry if the concept that everything you need is already inside of you is really believed.
yeah.
So, with that said, this is not a push against any supplement, because there's a way. If you choose to take something, I'm neither here or there with that. It's not my
Yeah.
place to impose a judgment on that, or to know if it's helpful or not. It's more like, is it functional or is it dysfunctional? And it's functional when you realize that everything you need is already inside of you on a physiological level, because that means that whatever you might be thinking your body needs, I would make the bet that's already been created. It's risen to this. I use the roller coaster analogy, or some of those rides that take you up really slowly, and it's the technology took you up slowly, but the descent is just caused by gravity
Yeah.
or whatever force is aiding in that descension besides gravity. And so in this instant, it's not the technology that's pushing the little car uh, up to the top as it waits for descent, but it's just living your life without having to think about it,
Mhm.
right? So much can go into wanting to sleep better and then manipulating all the decisions and choices and activities, the food that you eat, the exercise that you get, the meditation that you're doing throughout the day. All these things are beautiful things. I like to call that the a la carte approach to sleeping better, where you start to put things on your list and you're trying to create sleep through addition by addition.
Yeah.
What we're doing here in this principle is addition by subtraction, this principle stands for your right to go live your life,
Mhm.
not need to go buy some expensive sauna,
Mm.
maybe wear the blue blockers like you're wearing them now, because that's addition by subtraction. We're not disrupting the natural, beautiful system that's already put in place.
Mhm.
So there is, no matter what you end up doing, even though exercise is important, I
Mhm.
think we've all received beautiful sleep even on days that we didn't exercise. Right? We've all had that sleep, even the person that drinks the espresso shot before going to bed and sleeps beautifully.
Yeah, and we've all had the opposite, haven't we? Where we've done all the right things, the infrared sauna, the magnesium bath, and the meditation, and we haven't slept. So,
Yeah. Yeah, right. And that goes to show, right? The power of understanding that everything is inside of you that would allow somebody to have an espresso before bed and then sleep objectively better than the person who did all the things that you talked about. It really doesn't make sense. But the thing that does make sense is that one person was outsourcing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when we're approaching the sleep ritual, there is the principle builds in this understanding that from here forward, for those of you that are about to begin this journey, that I'm not saying, hey, don't reach for this thing that you normally reach for, but also understand there's another place to reach
Yeah,
that perhaps you haven't started reaching to, and it's an
yeah.
enforcing place.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's not about saying, like you say, ripping away, taking the cigarettes out of the smoker's hand or anything. It's not kind of stop taking your supplements, stop having your bath before bed, but it is about saying that, what we're doing with all of that is sometimes building up a lot of addition and a lot of stress, actually, things we have to do for a process that actually is a lot more innate and already set up than we realize. And what I like about this principle is the idea that you've written here yourself. It's so easy to confuse the process of sleep with something that begins at night, but actually it starts as soon as you wake up. And I really love that just as a starting point alone. I love that in a circadian physiological way, and I also love it in a kind of energetic internal communication network way, living in all of it. I think it's perfect. And I think that alone, the fact that, sleep has already been caused because you have lived your day. I just think that that is so fundamental here. Like we are, we're not looking at it like that at all. We're kind of living our day and then we're going, oh, it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Shit, I better start sorting my sleep out, or I better,
Yeah.
might have a bad night tonight, so I need to start thinking about this now, or I'm going to ignore this now and not think about it, and whatever end of the scale that we're on. But it's already, we live in a, like you said, the roller coaster or the circadian rhythm or the symphony or whatever we call it. We're already in that from the minute that we wake up.
Yeah.
And there is a physiological aspect to that, which we'll talk about maybe another time in terms of light and
Mhm.
things. But in a, I think with this, what you're talking about here, it's energetic, isn't it? What we're talking about here, energetic and communication. So that's already started as well as soon as you wake up.
Yes, and here is why this is big. If somebody is here and they're coming from the classic, what I call the classic insomnia hero's journey,
Mhm.
where there's a part of them that's been avoiding sleep and they don't know how to relate to that part. They don't know how to communicate with that part yet. What happens is throughout the day, there is a comfort with the the beginning, middle of the day, and then a rising discomfort as sleep
Mm,
approaches, because that's where this person is starting to recoil and
mm,
avoid. And then as bedtime gets closer, the hyper response to that is to become more determined.
Yeah, and that could be fairly subconscious as well, couldn't it? From a certain time of day onwards, in a way that could be kind of kicking up PTSD kind of wise, almost, because it's
Yeah, no, it's associative.
mm,
And this is the point, is that unconsciously an association is being made between this time of day and this thing that I'm going to do, which affects everything. That is also an example of how somebody has not been introduced to this principle where they actually are experiencing the illusion that sleep is starting when this association is taking place, when
mm,
sleep has actually been running, and it's a 24-hour process, right? And when you actually expand it out to a 24-hour process, there's not enough energy for somebody to be in avoidance that entire time.
mm,
So this is supposed to be grounding so that you realize you're not only consciously connected to the 24-hour cycle of sleep, but then because you're consciously connected, by the time you get to bedtime, you realize, oh yeah, that's right. You can't trick somebody at this point to believe that what they need isn't already inside of them, right? So just
yeah,
that, again, the classic insomniac experiences this surge of avoidance as bedtime approaches, which just means that they are unintentionally following the principle that everything that they need is not inside of them already,
mm,
right? This, that right there is grounding. This actually introduces us to the concept of grounding, what we call in the art of falling asleep, grounding, emotionally grounding your decision to sleep
yeah.
is to connect. You're connecting to the sleep that's already there. And then, and this is where it gets just fun. Now we are being introduced to intelligence headquarters within us. That's in the heart, right? Where
Mhm.
the higher self lives. And now understanding, oh my God, I have this guru, this guiding light within me
Mm,
that knows I have everything I need. And all I need to do is form more conscious communication with this unconscious genius and understand how to kind of pull the trigger or release the latch that is holding that cart up at the top, waiting for it to
yeah,
just,
waiting for
it's
it
the
to move.
permission latch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and again, it's about this. We talked about this in the last principle number 2, but it's about the organization of the energy, isn't it? It's about it's the same thing. It's and you've written here actually. Um, it changes the concept from trying to overcome an unknown resistance to simply organizing the energy in a very conscious and effective way.
yeah. Yeah, the resources are already there.
Yeah.
They're already there. It's like,
It's the
Sure.
again here, so I'm just reading some of what you wrote. The
Yeah,
touchstones provide you with the space for the wisdom from resistance to be communicated and processed within a self-sufficient closed circuit system. And that's what I think is so different here and so important. It's that communication and processing within a self-sufficient system, as opposed to suppressing the resistance using some form of regulation or external kind of addition.
yeah. We got interrupted by the internet connection, and so like I wanted to go back
Okay.
to this analogy I was making about outsourcing versus insourcing, but I was using the Amazon example because I think at this point just about every human on earth has gone through the Amazon experience. But outsourcing is like ordering something off of Amazon and then it gets delivered to the porch where there's already a ton of boxes there, right? And it doesn't feel like you've received these deliveries because you don't have access to them. And therefore it's you just need to keep ordering, not realizing that there is some kind of block to the delivery system, the ultimate, like opening up the package and seeing like, oh, here it is, right?
Mm.
And so the ingredients are all there. That's what everything you need is already inside of you, right? The ingredients are already there. All of the Amazon packages, the contents are there. And I go through this. Sometimes I order stuff from Amazon and then it gets here. I'm just like, oh crap. Now I gotta figure this out. I gotta read the instructions, you know. I've kind of been avoiding this moment, but I realize that there's no getting around that. I have to now take this out of the bag, figure out how to
Mm.
put it together, which is uh I know I can do it. I would not have ordered it if I knew I didn't already know how to do it. But it's just about that energetic availability of then taking the stuff out of the bags and then seeing where it goes and organizing it, just making sense of it. So this is and going back to um the concept of these Amazon packages are just energy. They're just energy. All we're doing from this point using the touchstones is organizing the energy and putting it like from the way we'd line up in elementary school from smallest to tallest, right? You're just
Mm.
putting things in the right order instead of trying to um, make it all like force it to
Yeah.
work. Yeah, through regulation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We've all, or most people who struggle with sleep on any level, you know, whether that's minor or major insomnia, we're trying to externally manage. We're trying to take things from the outside world and manage. And of course, like we said, I think at the very beginning, there is something around the environment that we sleep in that's important. There is something around the food we eat, the exercise we do, but that's not the foundational stone of this, if you like.
Mhm.
Um, and if misinterpreted, the energy from all those things can look like they're the things we have to do in order to sleep, when, you know, that's the difference, isn't it? It's kind of where the energy is coming from with that. Because if
Mhm.
before we know it, we can have this list of things we need to do in order to be relaxed enough to fall asleep, or,
Yeah.
you know, and none of them include what we're actually talking about here, which is your learning to communicate with yourself. You know,
Mhm.
that's the huge difference. I don't think even people who are sort of sat trying to meditate before they sleep, or, you know, I was having a conversation with someone just yesterday actually about this, and it was saying how, you know, even meditation is a forced activity for them. And it can be and it cannot be, like everything else. It's about where you're coming from when you do it, not the activity itself. But for most people, even meditating for half an hour or sitting, that's not even real presence with self. You know, that's like another, do you know what I mean? It's another externally forced attempt at regulation. It's not just an actual presence with self
Right.
and
It is,
actual
it's also
communication.
thinking for when it applies to sleep, going back to principle number one, it's also thinking that it's the mind that sleeps, not the body.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And it becomes transactional, therefore. Whenever we think that the mind sleeps, not the body, then the routines, the techniques, strategies are transactional
yeah,
and they don't address the unconscious, subconscious body, right?
yeah.
But here's the important part, right? Like it's all important, but what this principle wants you to know
Mhm.
is that there is an extremely, like, just so beyond functional system within you, an intelligence that knows exactly how to sleep. And it knows also if there's something in the environment that's not right or in your biological system that's needed for whatever reason. It knows how to communicate that to you as well. But all of this starts with the understanding that this inner system is completely functional. And without going on too big of a rant, what's happened over time is what I understand is sleep wasn't the problem that it is now. Technology was introduced in industrialization. It shifted the landscape, and then to fix that from the frequency of the problem, we're now using all of this innovation, technology, discovery of what sleep really is, which doesn't understand that intelligent system, and it's very spotty. And so this begins the outsourcing. Well, oh, I need magnesium, I need melatonin, I need these things because science is showing us that we need those things. And while maybe you do, as soon as you abandon the intelligence system for something that is appearing to be a more intelligent system, now you experience dysfunction that you're attributing to yourself, right? And something this happened to me this morning. I was messing with my website and going through this bit of like technology, like technology, but it was taking me through that song and dance with proving that you're not a robot. And it showed me, and it's just like click on every box that is a motorcycle, right? And so and then I'm like, so there's and I'm looking at it, but right away I'm just like so frustrated because, well, technically none of they were not motorcycles, they were mopeds, like scooters. And so I'm like, okay, how are we going to play this game? Because I don't want to click any of the boxes. I think I would win in court, right? And then but it then it had one of the mopeds, like there was a square where I could zoom in. I'm like, the tire was bleeding over to the square, right? And so I'm like, well, is this? I'm like, technically, this square has a moped in it, right? And so it was just like so dysfunctional. And I click on the thing, and it like now I have to point out, click all the ones with buses in it because I got it wrong, right? I was trying my best. I was observing it like it was a contract, and I got it wrong. And then I went to the buses and I got that one wrong, and I forget why, right? I'm just like I'm failing these tests, right? And I'm going through this experience. God, I hate technology, and it's just not my deal, right? It's like I'm internalizing, I'm personalizing the dysfunction that exists outside of me, right? And confusing that for the intelligence. The intelligence would be to just I don't know. Maybe outsource to somebody to do the technology for me. I'm getting there. But this is how this happens, is that as soon as we reach for something and that doesn't help us, right? It's like failing that test. And then we
Yeah. And then we're going to look for more and more and more of the outside thing, and it becomes, but what you just said there actually sums up the entirety of the, I don't know, therapeutic coaching, self-development, personal evolution model, really, is that we start to see it in that way. We start to see that, you know, we take personally the things we should never have taken personally. We take internally the things that were never ours to take internally. But what I really liked about what you were saying just then, and I think is so important, is that wisdom of the system, in that we're not saying don't have a lavender bath if you want a lavender bath. We're not saying don't have, you know, maybe, you know, most of us are probably deficient in magnesium actually to a certain degree because there's none in the soil, whatever. But we're saying that when you're in touch with your communication with your inner self, when you're in communication with your inner wisdom, with the part of you that is there, that all of that will be more obvious anyway. Like we know what to eat when we're coming from a grounded place. We're more drawn to the right things for our body when we're coming from that grounded place. It's just a more obvious Do you know what I mean? It's a more obvious way of finding what's the right thing for us, what's the right time for us to exercise, what kind of exercise, rather than coming from the experts and the science and the millions of Instagram influencers.
That's the last piece of why this is important, because
Mm,
we're not trying to be an expert here. This whole system, this whole modality is just helping support somebody to actually stand on their own inner platform of being an
yeah,
expert, right?
yeah,
That these steps are trying to find an objective reality and say, okay, no matter how well we can see or uh, come to this conclusion that this reality of sleep, we can agree on it. We're
mhm,
going to do our best, but even at that point, it still doesn't know anything compared to what you know inside,
yeah,
right? So we're just holding space for somebody to absorb these principles, follow these touchstones, but somewhere along the way, you're going to see something that only you can see and begin to
yeah.
communicate
And
loop.
that's what's beautiful about this whole process, because and that's what makes it different to a normal, here's 10 things to learn about how to fall asleep, because this is an internal, this is a self-development model. This is a can't even, all the words are overused, but this is an internal learning modality. This is a practice of getting closer to self, which is why for some people it won't be right, actually. People who are looking for here's
No.
5 ways to kind of sleep better. It is about going a bit deeper. It is about self-exploration and in getting in touch with self. It's actually the most beautiful and life-affirming and positive journey, but that's what it's about. It's not just a theoretical model or you know, a
Yeah.
learned experience. There's something more to it than that. And there is a practice to it in that way, and a willingness to get closer to our internal wisdom, which is for most people has been hidden, has been
Mm.
away, right? So that can be tricky to start with.
Well, and the whole function of the art falling asleep modality is to make this spiritual pragmatic, which
Yeah.
just means like here's some really simple linear tools so that you can
Mm,
make the unconscious conscious. Because once that happens, boom,
yes.
now you actually cut out the middleman, the human being, the sleep expert, the app, and now it's just a network through natural and
Yeah.
divine intelligence, life force energy, your own intelligent network. And how you
Nice.
get there, I mean, if you don't do any of these steps, but let's just say you're listening to this one of our conversations, let's say, or there's no conversation, you just, hey, you heard about this community where people are sleeping with everything that's already inside of them, and they're just like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Because I've had
Yeah.
clients like that.
Yeah, well, like you say, the steps are there as something to hang it all on because it makes sense. But like everything, the beauty of this isn't in the steps or the communication of the steps. It's that annoying thing. We're pointing to something else, but we're using words because that's all we have and and tools to get there. And we're trying to make the poetic practical so we can
Yeah.
be in that space. But yeah,
This reminds me, this is funny, like I used to experience this a lot, like when I would really find a food that I liked and I wanted to introduce that to somebody. It's like, and so uh there's a place like, oh, the burger here is so good. And I take my dad there, and then he orders, he's like, no mustard in that sauce, put it on the side. And I'm just like, no, you're ruining the burger. You have to do it the way that I designed my burger because I loved
yeah,
it so much. So I want you to love it as
yeah.
much as I love it. And not really understanding, like, well,
Maybe you don't need that mustard.
yeah, and he has his own experience of
Yeah,
the burger, right? Like it's he's only going to enjoy it less the more he tries to enjoy it the way I do. And that has been the transition for me with this, is to understand that fine line between kind of mandating that it has to be this certain way and just realize the only goal here is to create a bridge from this resistance that you haven't been able to pinpoint and say, hey, look, here are some tools to help you make the unconscious conscious. And then from there, it's like, the kid riding the bike and getting it, right? Not needing the training wheels. And so we're just here to assist that transition.
I like that. I like that. It's like the training wheels until you don't need them anymore. And there's no kind of, yeah, forcing those training wheels to stay on. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. And what has, again, that's where all these principles come in. It's just like, well, how did we get here? Okay. Industrialization technology. Cool.
mm,
All right. And then we tried to fix that, but it didn't fix it because you can't put certain things back in the box. It only made it worse. Okay. What happened
yeah.
from
We
there?
just tried to add on, like you said, we've tried to sort of solve the problem from the same level of thinking that created the problem, and we've tried to, yeah, we haven't
Right.
gone,
Which evolved into people thinking that it's the mind that sleeps, not the
yeah,
body, which
yeah,
evolved into using one single technique to relax the mind instead of
mm,
several touchstones, which evolved into people thinking, oh, something's wrong with me. I need to reach
yeah,
outside myself. And then we'll get to the fourth one later. But it's
yeah.
I think it's that simple. But
Yep.
there's
No,
just
I like it. I like it. And I think and here actually in what you've written to summarize, this sleep ritual is designed to help you organize the energy inside of you that is naturally disorganized by the end of the day, which we touched on last time. This energy has an intelligence of its own that knows how to sleep. So really what we're trying to do here is organize, we are trying to organize disorganized energy, but only again because we have got a squashed window of time between the day and the night now. We have got a different load of technology going on in our lives. We have got a different stress load. We have got a different environment, whatever, right? That's why we're doing it. So it's not that we're doing something against nature or we're trying to biohack nature even. We're just trying to kind of use natural laws to, but just help it along the way, right? We're just trying to kind of give it just enough, if you like, but no more. You know, we're
yes.
not trying to go overboard. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, we're it's like putting a bumper on something so something can continue to operate, or like a self-cleaning vacuum cleaner. Sometimes it
mm,
gets stuck on a corner on a
yeah.
chair, right? You're just moving the chair. You're not trying to like control the
Yeah, and sometimes I know someone I know talks about it like a kinked hose, like we've got this kind of hose connection between us and source energy, and sometimes it just gets throughout the course of the day there are some kinks that get in the hose, and we just have to unkink unkink the hose to allow that what wants to flow anyway to carry on flowing, kind of thing. So that's what we're talking about here, and that's why I like it, because we're not looking at kind of buying a new hose or a fancier hose or adding on lots of extras to the hose. We're just looking at making
Mhm.
hose as it should have been anyway,
Yeah.
and organizing the energy. So yeah, and again, here in your words, we invite you to pause, to feel the relief in the efficiency of taking smaller steps for the sake of circadian rhythm and self-connection, and consider the healing that this ritual can provide you beyond the outcome of sleep. And again, you know, this is everything you need is already inside of you. That's not just a sleep thing, that's a life thing. You know, this is about how we live from the waking up to the sleeping to the waking up to the sleeping, and it's about yeah, this whole ritual can provide you with so much more than just 7 or 8 hours of sleep.
Right, right. And the way this looks when it actually gets facilitated is everything that you need is already inside of you. It has less to do with the melatonin and the adenosine and more to
Mm,
do with you communicating with this part of you that is avoiding sleep, and the part of you that is trying to compensate for that avoidance with determination. And when you begin
mm,
communicating with that part of you and understanding how to send love through the heart to that part, now you see like, oh my God, all these Amazon packages are getting unpacked and put into place and becoming functional in your life. That's where it happens. That's how it happens.
yeah. And that whole scale that you're like alluding to, or we're hinting at, I guess, in this conversation, the kind of avoidant to determined scale. That's something that, again, the words are used slightly differently to maybe people's normal idea of them in a way. And that's something that we can and will need to discuss in more detail as part of the whole, that comes into the whole kind of, protocol and ritual. But that whole, where are we in the kind of avoidant end to determined end is a really big part of this whole art as well. Yeah, amazing. So yeah, I think that's probably about it for this one for today, but it is that just remembering, I think even those words alone, again, we are designed to sleep. Sleep is already caused. It's not something outside of us. And that sounds so obvious, but really we've forgotten. It's like a remembering. And
And with sleep, more than anything else, like sleep is the first thing. We came into this world sleeping. And I mean, it's like the chicken or the egg, but it's the first skill. It's the first skill that we had. Whereas sometimes, people do other things really well. I'm a pretty good guitar player, but I had to practice a lot to learn how to play guitar. And I know that if I'm going to go perform somewhere and I'm feeling a little nervous, I'm like, oh, everything I have is already within me because I already know how to play guitar, but it's because I already learned how to play guitar. Well, this is taking it a step further back, that everything I have is within me, and I don't even need to like remember that. Like the remembrance is there, right? The
awareness
remembrance
is already there. Yeah.
realization, not a practice.
Yeah, it's literally like knowing how to breathe, isn't it? So
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So, again, it's the contemplation that all of these principles, the principles are here not as a tool for you to take into bed with you, but for you to contemplate it during the day and pass this along
yeah.
to the unconscious, to the part of you, the naturally intelligent part of you, that it's through the act of contemplating that your natural intelligence, the subconscious body that runs this sleep clock, is like, you're not telling it, oh, you already know. Like, it's like, thank you for seeing me, right? Your body's like, thank you. I really appreciate you contemplating this because I'm finally feeling heard and seen. And it's just like,
Absolutely.
wow,
Yeah.
you're developing this beautiful relationship with yourself. And
I love that. I think the art of contemplation that's exactly it, isn't it? And that's the big missing piece in most of our human experience right now, actually.
it's the trust loop, the network of trust between the mind, the higher self mind, and the subconscious body.
Yeah.
That is what we are activating. That's what you are activating, all of you that are about to enter into this journey, right? If you contemplate this, then you'll see why the next principle is what it is. And I think we should leave it there because this is yes, we have to do
Yeah.
it with a Netflix, like a
I know
cliffhanger.
everything bleeds into everything else, but we need to separate it out to a certain extent, don't we? So awesome. Thank you, Derek. And we'll be back with Principle 4 next time.
All right. See you all next time.